Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are live in downtown Bakersfield. This is I Love You, Say It Back. It's the podcast, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. We're live in downtown Bakersfield, and we are happy to be here after, we'll get into this in a minute, but I think that was one of the best Super Bowl weekends, games, that I've personally ever seen. That was absolutely fantastic. Yep. We'll get into that. So hold that thought. I'm your host, Vic D. Whoa. That is our producer, Eric, over there, who just found out some interesting information on Instagram. That you're like, wait, what?
What it do?
We're doing 12 episodes, and we're dropping them all tonight, so we're going to be here all night. Glad you're with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's God, well, you know this, but I've just had I've been editing videos like the last every day. Staying busy.
It's been a crazy last couple of days. It's been crazy in the good way, like where we're doing things that we truly enjoy, and we'll get into our Super Bowl weekend. We'll get into the Super Bowl game. This is our Super Bowl recap. And so that's what this episode is going to be all about. And I'm excited for it because I have lots of thoughts on the game. We're going to hit on the T Swift effect. We're going to hit on the halftime show. We're going to talk about the commercials. We're going to talk about everything Super Bowl we are going to hit on. So got a loaded show for you. Before we get into it, just want to remind you, we are brought to you by the Mattress Space Furniture Outlet out there, Buck Owens Boulevard, right here in Bakersfield. Jump on over. Check them out. They are going to be getting you hooked up if you are looking for a great deal on your mattress. Invest in yourself. Invest in your sleep. And they'll get you taken care of. Buck Owens Boulevard, the Mattress Space Furniture Outlet. Jump over there. Let them know we sent you. They'll take care of you. And, of course, I relied on this a lot over the weekend. Define, and it just got me through. It was fantastic. Define, you can find it at Rev Nutrition. We went snowboarding over the weekend. I love going snowboarding, and I love taking this thing right before we hit the slopes. Feel great. You burn a little extra calories. You got that little fat burner in there. You come out there, you're looking skinty, and you're looking fabulous, and you're like, I'm ready to eat, because the Super Bowl food, which we'll jump into, was absolutely fantastic. Definitely put on some pounds, which could get into that too. So go check them out. Rev Nutrition, all over Bakersfield. Get you some Define. Sprinkle a little pre-workout in this. I don't know if you're able to tell, Eric.
About I'm sorry. I'm reading a topic
okay.
that I want to bring up.
But I'm
wide awake. Thank you, Define.
Yeah, you should feel pretty damn good too. We're going to be here all night. Let's go ahead and get into this. So Super Bowl 58 wrapped up. Kansas City Chiefs came back and beat the San Francisco 49ers again and are now back-to-back Super Bowl champions. A lot of people like, oh, I hate it. Oh, it was scripted. Oh, it was the NFL. Shut up. There was nothing about this game that really felt one-sided, lopsided. It was an all-time game. Which I wanted to start here because I really do feel it was an interesting game. So thoughts on the game itself. We're going to start there. I actually think, and tell me if you feel the same way, I feel like the 49ers outplayed the Chiefs in, I'd say, maybe 80% of that game. I really, truly feel, when we made our picks, I really feel like the 49ers, when we went player for player, I remember specifically saying 49ers have the better offensive players, defensive players. The better top-to-bottom team, they got Hall of Famers, running backs, this and that. You can go down the list. It's like better players, San Francisco. Better, but then when we made our picks, I was like, but I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. And that's literally how it kind of came down to.
Yeah.
Everything that I expected the 49ers to do with Christian McCaffrey. I didn't expect that fumble, but I also didn't expect him from Isaiah Pacheco, whatever.
But that was a big one.
Player for player, I actually was super impressed with Brock Purdy. I thought he was going to be really shaken up. I thought he played really well. There were some third down plays where I was like, well, this is the moment in which it's going to seem too big and he's going to kind of fold or look nervous. And no, he was completing third downs. He was throwing darts to Brandon Ayuk. He
played pretty composed, honestly. You mentioned it while we were watching it. Like, hey, I'm impressed.
I was impressed. And I had money on the Chiefs. So it's like, it took a lot for me to be like, because when you have money invested, you start to kind of look at it different. You're like,
the game's more intense. Yeah, the game's is.
Yeah, we'll get into our bets when we get to that point of the game. But I really do feel like the 49ers outplayed them. And when you talk about Kyle Shanahan, there was a lot made of the coin flip at the end of the game. But I do feel like his scheme is like his trick play was working.
Did you mean the coin toss in overtime or the beginning of the game?
No.
I wanted to make sure because you were having people bet their mortgage on this.
Yeah, shut your mouth. I told you not to bring that up. I definitely meant in overtime. It was tails in overtime, and it was just an easy misunderstanding. But yeah, you just had to bring that up. I did tell him to also bet the Chiefs money line, which would have paid out a lot more. But it was a really good game. And so I thought the 49ers played them. And then I feel like they had a chance to kind of step on the Chiefs' throats in the first half. The Chiefs couldn't do anything offensively. They were just kind of stalling out drive after drive after drive. And it was like, man, they can't do anything against this defense. They were looking good. Bosa was unstoppable. They couldn't block the guy. But they couldn't. Then they give the ball right back, and I'm like, all right, well, this is where they're going to come down. They're going to score. They're going to pull away. That's when they should have stepped on their throat. But they didn't, and at halftime, we're looking at a Chiefs down by 7 game. And at that moment, do you remember what I looked over and I told you, I was like, I'm looking at the live line? Because at this point, I had a very small amount of money on the Kansas City Chiefs. I never talk figures, but small amount of money, like enough to be fun, but not enough to be like, oh, I can't do anything else for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the halftime line and I was like, it went from plus 110 to plus 120. Just to give you an idea, $100 pays $170 if you bet on that particular team, in this case, the Chiefs. And I looked at them and I was like, the Chiefs are down by 7 after being outplayed all game. You're giving me Andy Reid. You're giving me Patrick Mahomes, a Travis Kelce that's been shut down the entire game, a fumble by the running back. It ain't going to happen again.
Uh-huh.
And I said, they're only down by 7, and they get the ball at half, and you're giving me plus 170 odds? And you said, let's jump on it.
Yep. And I picked the Niners in the last podcast.
You picked the Niners, but
once it's just one of those things. For me, it's always just a feeling. And it started feeling that Mahomes' experience was just gonna start riding the game.
Yeah,
and you just seen it in the first half. For me, like both defenses are playing good football. Which team has the ability to pull away at the end of the game?
Well,
it's gonna be the veteran,
and you'll appreciate this because you're into boxing. They compared Patrick Mahomes. I've heard this on several podcasts and TV shows where they're like, he's almost like a fighter who's just kind of feeling out the first 3 rounds, the first 4 rounds. He's like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then in the last 6 rounds, 7 rounds, 8 rounds, that's when he's like, okay, he's gathering information in the early part of the fight, and then he's using that same information. It's like, well, when I do this, you do this, and now he's collecting information. Let me use that against you because now I know what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna come out there and whoop your ass. And that's exactly what he did, and it was a crazy, crazy, great football game. So me and you took him at plus 170. After they punted on their opening drive, that line kicked up to plus 200 plus. That's when I jumped on it. I'm seeking value, and I got it, you know. And so it was an intense game all around. Then the big momentum shift was really that punt where it hit off the San Francisco player's leg.
Yeah,
and then that turnover, and then you just knew it was over when Kansas City gets the ball and they're like the 10, 15-yard line. I don't remember where they got it. But then Patrick Mahomes comes out, next play, not even a series, not even nothing. It was just next play, boom, turnover, touchdown.
Yeah.
take the lead back over.
That overtime scared the crap out of me. Actually, the end of the game, like you said, just once you're invested with money, you start just contemplating like, did I make the right bet? Is this gonna happen? Not just that. Now you're sitting on the end of it. I almost feel like I always want to bet on these kind of. That's why I like buying the squares and stuff. It just kind of makes it. I like the squares because when you take the points and none of the teams are your team, you're like, all right, cool. Just let these hit and make it a good game, you know. But for having $100 on it, I was like, man, maybe this was a bad idea.
Yeah, but it turned out that it wasn't.
It wasn't. I had a great ride home. And
that was a fun day. We got to get into that after we finish doing the recap of this. So just to put a bow on this, I thought it was almost exactly what we thought. 49ers, better team, better roster, top to bottom, but Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. It's really that simple. And it was one of those things where I wanted to come on and be like, I wanted to really, like, at what point do we start having the conversation where the Niners, you got to shut up about making fun of the Cowboys. You got to stop making fun of, because you ain't getting the job done. In fact, if we're talking Super Bowls, the last 49ers Super Bowl was in 1994. The last Cowboys Super Bowl was in 1996. And I stopped myself short, and I'll tell you why. Because the 49ers not only own the Cowboys, they're the ones who are eliminating them. The Cowboys are always frauds. They're always, we're going to put up 48 points on all these bad teams and bad teams and bad. The 49ers are at least getting to the Super Bowl, and they're losing to Hall of Famers. Again, we're going to look back in 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, and be like, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, he's already on that path to being the GOAT. So it's not like the 49ers are getting blown out in Super Bowls. They're coming this close, folks. They have 10-point leads in the Super Bowl, and then it just so happens to be one of the greatest quarterbacks that we've ever seen comes back and takes over that game with one of the greatest coaches, one of the greatest tight ends at the end of the game with the ball to go, with the chance to go win the game. So I can't just be like, 49ers, you got to shut your mouth. And the job isn't getting done, but they're a lot more impressive top to bottom interior general managers, rosters, they're not fraudulent. I think they're really good.
Jimmy Garoppolo would have got it done.
That's a bold thing. Whoa, where did that come from? That was.
Just saying.
I like Tittles.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Kaepernick gets it done for him if they bring him. If they'd have brought him back this year.
I don't know where this is coming. This is the most random thing I've heard.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Those are two people that Garoppolo. And I know we do not need to stay on these topics that long. If you looked at his stat record, like his stat sheet, he was literally like having like 23-1 like records as a quarterback. He was a game manager. He wasn't like a guy that took big risks, but he would win when you look at his like 2-3 seasons in a row when he left New England.
Yeah. So. Well, I will say that the counter argument to that is simply what they're asking. They're asking more of Brock Purdy. If you look at like the playoff run stats, there was games where I think there was one game where Jimmy threw like less than 10 times. It was kind of hilarious, and they dominated that game.
Yeah,
so it's
I remember.
Like, you do what you need.
That. Yeah.
Brock Purdy, I think he's a little bit more impressive. That said, Jimmy G also didn't have the weapons that Brock Purdy had.
Exactly.
So it's just it's an argument that we can get, like it's the chicken or the egg. You know, what came first? It's like, is this good because of this, or is this because of this? So, I think it was an all-time. For me personally, it was one of the best Super Bowls that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's only, I believe, the second Super Bowl that has gone into overtime.
Really?
Yeah, it's only the second Super Bowl, and it's funny because you talk about
that was intense.
You talk about the new Super Bowl overtime rules. It's crazy because no one understood them. Remember, me and you were sitting there. We're like, all right, they changed
double overtime.
We understood. We understood that there was changes to the rules, but it was like, wait, was it this or was it that? Or was it like, it was almost, it's very close.
Well, remember they're like, oh crap, we thought it was going to go in a double overtime type of thing. But then they're like, no, if it hits 0, it just goes to the second quarter. It's a whole brand new game.
Yeah.
And then they just flip the field again.
Yeah.
So that was kind of crazy even hearing that.
I think it was a small key in that last play.
100%. You thought they were going to just waste the time, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I bet you a lot of people on the 49ers, a couple of defenders. Now, they were ready to go. It wasn't like they got caught off guard. They were standing around, moping around. No. They're ready to go, but I bet you that split second, that quarter second where it's like, okay, well, they can easily run this out. No penalty, no nothing, just taken into the second quarter. More time to adjust and set up a play. And then they're just like, 3, 2, go. Instead of just, letting it go into the second quarter. But special game, to me, it was a top 5. And here's what's bugging me about what I'm seeing a lot of people online. I haven't seen one person address this or talk about this angle of it. Everyone's saying it was kind of boring in the first half. There wasn't much action. There was a lot of punts. Granted, you're absolutely right. There wasn't much scoring. But you got to understand that when you're watching the Super Bowl, when you're watching that, like we're looking at it now in hindsight saying that was boring. But in the moment, every play you're hanging on because anything could happen on any play. We saw the big play from Mahomes. We saw the Christian McCaffrey trick play touchdown from Jennings. That was like those things could happen any play at any time. So it's not like you're sitting there being like, oh, here's another play that's going to be a punt. It's like, no, you're hanging on to every single play. So to me, it wasn't boring because anything could happen. That's the beauty of football.
Yeah.
Anything could happen at any time. So it's like people were like, well, the first half was kind of boring. It was like
that was all the Swiftie fans.
Shut your mouth.
That was a Swiftie fan.
No, because I've heard it from a lot of like
I know.
sportscasters too. They're like, yeah, it's great to say in hindsight that, oh yeah, it was a boring first half. No. It wasn't in the moment. And that's all that matters. Because in the moment, I don't remember one single boring part. Because again, every snap of the ball, you're sitting there like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Now, nothing ended up happening. That's why people are saying it was boring in the first half. But when you're sitting there watching it, anything could happen in that moment. And that does not make, you're not sitting there being like, oh, this is boring. No. Trick plays, Super Bowls, momentum shifts, turnovers. There was fumbles. There was turnovers. There was trick plays. You can't tell me that was a boring Super Bowl. I think from top to bottom going into overtime, I think that was one of the best top 5 Super Bowls that I've ever seen. Do you agree or disagree?
Number 1 is 2010 Packers versus Steelers. I could put that in. I could put it in the top 5.
Turn this mic off.
I probably put it in my top. Hello? I put it in my top 5.
I
that
think
was
so.
Fun. It was intense.
I thought a more boring one was actually the 28-3. Like that was only good at the very end. But
one of the worst game. I mean, it ended up being fun. I just still never liked that Atlanta New England game.
Yeah, the 28-3. The comeback was great, but
comeback was great, but it was
a blowout.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean. Like in this game, it was never a blowout.
Even that Niner game where the lights went off. What is that?
Yeah.
The Niners Ravens.
I believe that was 2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
Was it? I think it was later.
It was one of those years. But
I just remember even that same thing. I don't remember anything but the lights going out on that game too.
That's
like, it wasn't a fun game to me.
I remember the 2 Harbaugh brothers. Mm-hmm. That was Jim and John. So all time, my personal record, that was one of the best Super Bowls I've ever seen. And I'll be honest, having a live bet at plus 200 on the Chiefs, it didn't hurt is all I'm going to say. It didn't hurt. We were sitting there watching it, and there was points where I was like, oh, this is doomed. And then I felt bad because I got you to bet it, and then I was like, you just got to trust in Mahomes, and as long as he has a chance.
I hate that this has happened. Every time I do the bet first, the odds change, and you're like, or you figure something out, you're like, oh, actually, that $100 bet could have got you, you know?
Yeah.
Because like not long after that, I think the bet went to, if you put $50, you could have won like 120.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I don't do pregame bets. Like, I think I've talked about this. I'm only searching for value. And for that, it takes a little bit more work because you got to know situations and you got to know.
You do like stock market football betting,
right?
I mean sports betting,
which minimizes losses and maximizes wins. So like Dan gets mad. He's like, value. But I'm like, look, I can't afford to be losing like this. Minimizing losses, So and I'm not going to get too deep into betting, but basically what my strategy is even if I lose, there's value in losing, because instead of losing, let's say $100, I'm losing 40. So people think like, oh, there's only value in winning. It's like, no, because instead of like losing what you would have originally bet to win that, you're now betting $40 to win that. And let's say it doesn't hit. Well, guess what? You won $60 because you didn't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like there's value, and maybe that's a whole different podcast, which we need to talk about anyways.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So that was all-time Super Bowl trip. So I was out there. We were in Big Bear. So we do a Super Bowl trip every year. Me and my buddies, we usually get together. This year, a lot of people weren't able to make it. So I went out there on Saturday morning, and then me and you communicated last time that we were doing this podcast. I told you, I was like, I'm heading up to Big Bear, getting a cabin. I'm doing gonna hit the slopes just the way we do it every Super Bowl Sunday. You get out there as soon as the slopes open, and you finish by 1:30-ish, 2 at the latest, and then you go just start barbecuing. You watch the national anthem. You do all the things, and it's just honestly, it's one of the most beautiful days of the entire year. I talked about it on my Instagram. I was like, I text people like, "Hey, happy Super Bowl Sunday," more people than I like text, "Hey, happy birthday," or "Happy Merry Christmas," or anything. Like happy Super Bowl Sunday. It's
Happy
honestly,
Merry
it's a
Christmas.
perfect day. It's a perfect day. You give me snowboarding, which is like an exercise. It's almost like how on Thanksgiving, you know how you like the reason we love the turkey bowl or doing kind of, it's because you want to burn a few calories. You want to get a little workout in. You want to have some fun with the boys and do this, because you know you're getting ready to stuff your face.
Yeah.
So we got that snowboarding in, hit the slopes, did quite a few runs. And, but yeah, you pulled up that Sunday morning. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you want to know how it went real quick?
Tell them the story.
So, you got us hooked up on tickets.
Yeah, big shout out Amanda at Big Bear.
Amanda, thank you very much.
We got to send her a video too.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so I remember I knew I was gonna go. I knew I had a couple things I needed to get done prior to going if I was gonna, enjoy that trip and make sure I had things taken care of. So I think I was up editing. It got to the point where I was like, I'm gonna drive straight to Big Bear from the studio, like at 6 a.m. So I ended up going to Urapan, which was a client I used to have or they still are a client, but we do work for them. But there was a big band there, so I wanted to go support. I was there with some friends. Straight from there, I went home. I made sure people got home safe. Went home, and then I was like, man, yeah, there's no way I'm sleeping. So it was like 4 a.m. I think I did whatever I was doing at home. Then I ended up coming back to the studio. I had to get a quick edit done to send to a buddy from one of his events. And then I was like, while this is loading, because you know the loading process of a video. While I was loading, I was like, let me get a 5-10 minute nap in the studio before I leave up to Big Bear, which is, I somehow in my head thought it was a little closer, but it's like a little over 3 hours. So I was like, I'll start the drive if I leave at 5 a.m. That's what I was going to leave, 5 a.m. But it was already like 5:30. So I was like, if I leave now, I'll still get there in a good time and have the day. So I ended up waking up like at 8:30.
Yeah, because you texted me the night before and we kind of got everything settled. I was like, all right, you're locked in. You're like, I'm coming out. And I was like, dope. Just know, obviously we were already in Big Bear, but so I was like, I got the alarm set for 6:45. I'm having my coffee. I'm enjoying my day. The slopes don't open until 8:30. And then I called you around 7 and I was like, you better, and I called you and you didn't answer.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you better be on your way because, I was like, if you're not here, it's like 3 hours.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
It's not around the corner.
Yeah, so then I ended up waking up like kind of one of those I'm late to work, late to school thing. Like, oh shit. So I jump up. I never got to finish the video, obviously, because then I woke up. So I got the save thing. I saved it to the Dropbox so I could send that out. And then I left. I was shooting the Jenny 69 video thing earlier that weekend, so I wanted to get that post up that day. Drive up, let you know. Beautiful drive, by the way. So cool. I just love drives. They're so peaceful to me. So get a Big Bear. You're probably snowboarding. I was kind of feeling bad. I'm like, oh man, I didn't get to rip the mountain with him like in the morning, which would have been amazing, I think, because it was actually kind of hot out there. It was one of the reasons I didn't care to snowboard most of the day or longer than I needed to.
Sorry, princess.
Yeah. So
it's a little hot out here.
Yeah, it was hot,
Can we
bro.
turn the fans on?
Yeah, like it's snowing out here. Why is it so hot? So we started snowboarding. I get out there, blah blah blah, and then we get to watch the game. Amazing time. We had some really good runs. I started snowboarding in 3 years ago, essentially. So I had one of my best runs with you when we came from we kind of got stuck on the mountain longer than we wanted to. We kept going up a little side of the mountain, but yeah, it was a good time. It was fun.
It was, yeah, and it was clutch. Yeah, you only been snowboarding a couple of years and you crushed it, bro. Like, I've been snowboarding for a few years, so like, I hit you kept up really well, and I know you've only been doing it. And the most impressive part about this is the fact that you can record. This is how I know, like, you're a video guy, like through and through. You can record while you're snowboarding, bro. I posted this on my Instagram. I posted the video of me eating shit. Like, I was like, he recorded me, came out with a dope ass video, keeping up, staying, with it. Then I was like, hey, Eric, let me go ahead and do this for you. Bro, that is a whole skill set in itself.
Yeah.
The way you snowboard, you shift, it's a lot of hip movement, it's a lot of, shoulders, it's a lot of arms, and
you can't move once you contort a part of your body out of position that is in line with the movement it's supposed to do to go back and forth, because your lower body works with your upper body. So the last time I posted a video, I was dancing, left, do it, right. And one of my buddies that's badass at snowboarding, he's like, dancing while you're snowboarding is a talent in itself, bro. Like, and only snowboarders would know that, because I kept falling trying to dance, and I want to dance doing everything. So, anyways, yeah, recording it is a tough thing, I think. But once you learn to use your hand and wrist as a gimbal rather than focusing on recording, you keep all your same movement. You're just kind of twerking. You're moving your hand really to every move. So
yeah, it's a skill. It's impressive, and I was like blown away. I was like, this dude keeps up, and he can record a lot tougher than it looks.
The audio you used was funny for that.
Oh yeah,
Early.
There's a story behind it. We'll talk about that later, off the podcast. Yeah. But so again, the Super Bowl was perfect. You came up, we rode, we did our thing, and then we headed back to the cabin that we had. And then, dude, the food was fantastic. We pretty much touched on everything. That we got burgers, we had hot links, we had wings. I think you're getting ready to your camera.
Oh yeah.
We had hot links, we had wings, we had chips, we had queso, we had nachos, we had Doritos, we had beers, we had, everything that goes into making a good. The wings were freaking fantastic too. We had desserts, we had cookies, we had it was a great Super Bowl. And I remember you were talking about how you're just gonna come up snowboarding and come back to Bakersfield and watch it. And we were like, hey, just stay and watch it with us. And it was a great time.
Yeah, and that was largely in part to me coming up late.
Yeah.
Because the original plan was go snowboard and get back to Bakersfield in time to watch the game with all my friends. So that didn't happen. But hey, how long was that like that? Do you remember?
It just popped up.
Okay, cool.
It was maybe 30 seconds.
Real quick story. while the game had, I think I got there right after the game started. So you're like, hey, help out with the food. And I went outside to put the grill on. And you're like, hey, clear this little spot right here with the snow shovel thing.
Yeah.
Dude, and the funny part is I tried to record myself, but my phone stopped because it wasn't
memory.
the memory. But I was like a kid in the snow for that little moment. Like, bro, I was laughing the whole time, like shoveling snow, throwing it up behind me and next to me in the air, and it was dope.
Yeah, you came in with a big old smile on your face.
Yeah.
And do you know why? Because usually I love being on the grill because, everybody's got their own like grilling style and you're like, I don't want anyone else on the grill.
Yeah.
But we were watching the game inside and I was like, damn, the game already started. I was like, all right, Eric, if you want to help out, just go make the burgers and make the hot links. I'm in there making jalapeno poppers. And otherwise, I would have been out there on the grill. But it was funny. Yeah, we needed a little path and you're just like, dude, I'm out there having a blast, like a little kid.
Yeah,
shoveling snow. Yeah, unique experiences you don't get very often here in Bakersfield. So if anybody's listening in a part of the country that snows regularly, this is different to us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't get that here.
Yeah, we enjoy it when we get out there. Man, snowboarding has been one of the greatest things I've learned over like since 2018. And experiencing it kind of makes you when you learn new things as an adult, it makes you look at your parents like, why didn't you guys ever try to get us or take us out here to do this or that? But then you just realize, oh, this is a rich person sport or thing to do. Like we were broke our whole life,
bro. It's like the only thing I would give my parents crap for is and I'm saying I haven't and I would never, but I wish
do it live on the podcast.
I wish they would have put me in a golf. There's days where I'm out there and I'm like, man, I just shot a 83 and I'm like, if I had only started as a 6-year-old, I would have been the next Tiger Woods. Not true. Every golfer goes through this. They're like, if I just would have started in high school, I would have made a pro. I would have been on tour. But let's bring this back. We're getting a little off track here.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about this because me and you both called it the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce rumors about, as soon as they win, he is going to propose, drop to one knee as the confetti's falling. They're going to be kissing. It's going to be honeymoon ending perfect, story tell. And no, it didn't happen. He did not propose. He did not. First of all, we gave you all the reasons it was so stupid. They've only known each other for blank amount of time. He would never take that spot and shine away from anybody else at that moment. It would be incredibly selfish. So it didn't happen, but I did want to talk about the Taylor Swift effect because I think we said it on last podcast going into the Super Bowl. I said, this is going to be the most watched event, period. Like, this is easily going to be, when you combine the Super Bowl, which is already a massive yearly thing, that it's already like the top thing that we watch here in America.
Yeah.
And you add the iconic, a superstar at the peak of her powers, dating a celebrity on the team, one of the greatest Hall of Fame tight ends. You bring in a whole new audience that's totally different, that never has watched this ever in their life. So it's like you're combining two worlds. This was very predictable. Yeah. So they broke records for, have you heard about this?
No, I was just going to say, I'm excited to learn about the numbers.
Yeah, so check this out. So Super Bowl 58 was the most watched American television broadcast in a generation. Let's break that down into details. It averaged 123.4 million viewers. CBS said that breaking the Super Bowl viewership records, the audience for Super Bowl 58 was so large that it approached the all-time most watched television broadcast set in 1969, when an estimated 125 to 150 million viewers watched. Can you remember any event in 69?
1969. Ooh, nice year. 1969. What happened? I don't know. The some type of war was announced or some shit.
Nope. It was the Apollo 11 moon landing. So everybody was watching that. That's the only thing that surpasses it. 125 billion.
One word answer. Real or fake though? You don't explain anything. We'll talk about it some other day.
Real.
Okay.
Real. But yeah, so they go on to say the super massive Super Bowl audience was likely confluence of several factors, including the showdown that went into overtime, the crowd with the superstar, of course, the Taylor Swift, and who has generated heightened interest around the Chiefs due to her romance with Travis Kelce, blah, 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 all the predictable stuff. But it was obvious. It was going to be the most watched thing that anybody had ever seen, and it certainly delivered. It's hilarious how there's now talks about all the shows are talking about how Swifties just don't lose and how like suddenly we're into football and suddenly like, we just date guys and he's in the Super Bowl. Oh, and he won the Super Bowl. Oh, he did it last year too. This is easy. Like, why doesn't everybody do it? What do you mean it's hard to win a Super Bowl? It's like this is their first year exposed to any of this and they win a Super Bowl. Damn it.
What's their age gap? Do you know?
There isn't. I think they're both 34.
Really? So when did Taylor Swift start becoming a name for herself? What year?
Man, dude, she was like,
do you know?
15, 16?
Really?
Yeah, she was
young. She was a
dude.
teenager?
Well, she started in country music. She was very, very young. So, I mean, she didn't start off as what she is now, but that's
she
when
started off in
her
country?
star. Yeah, she was. Are you serious?
I think I do remember that. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
No, see, I mean, clearly I'm not a Taylor Swift fan like this, but
the Taylor Swift. But the other part that I wanted to bring up with Taylor Swift is, and any of these old grumpy people on Facebook, it's so funny. It's Facebook. You go on Facebook, hates Taylor Swift. Twitter loves Taylor
2006.
Swift. Instagram, depending on who you are or what you follow, it's all like the social media platforms that everybody on Facebook is all of these old people who are like, he wanted everybody to take the Pfizer, and I don't want to take no jab, and I don't want to do nothing, so I'm going to hate. They hate Travis, so they automatically hate Taylor Swift because they believe, again, it's a political agenda, whatever. So Facebook hates the Taylor Swift effect and all that stuff. And then you go to other social media platforms, and they love it, and they, whatever. But I think there was a stat that was dropped, and anybody who's complaining about it is listen to this. The total amount of time that Taylor was shown in the Super Bowl. Take a guess.
A minute and a half.
54 seconds.
That's pretty close.
54. That is pretty close. You're really good at these things, but 54 seconds.
Dang, that's like $14 million in ad
it is
time.
Yeah, the average Super
It's
Bowl
about 15 million, 7.7 million for 30 seconds.
Million, yeah. So anybody's complaining, they're like, they're showing too much Taylor Swift.
Real quick, I asked
not even
that
a minute over
question
a
for
4-hour broadcast.
For a reason. 2006, Tim McGraw was our first big, I guess, Billboard Hot 100. So in 2006, we were 15, 16?
Right.
That means Travis Kelce was 17, 18 when she became a superstar, and he's probably in love with her. But now I wonder who has that feeling now. Like, is it more of Taylor Swift, like, yo, I'm with Travis Kelce? Or is Travis Kelce like, bro, I'm with, like, Taylor Swift, bro? Like, this is a girl, like, we were in college, like, being like, yo, we listen to her music, or everyone's whatever it is.
Yeah, because Travis Kelce wasn't really,
he wasn't a big guy
up until Mahomes really
that's what I'm
blew
saying.
up.
So when you really look at this, I'm always curious of that behind the scenes stuff. Like, hey, I wonder how he thinks about being like with this girl that all of him and his friends and girls and all this stuff he used to hear about, loving their whole adult life, and now he's like, oh, I'm with Taylor Swift. I'm getting that.
Crazy. And the videos after were pretty fun, man. The dude going crazy in Vegas. Vegas seemed to be like a lot of fun. I was watching some of the videos with, the Barstool Sports, the CBS crews, and it seemed like if it goes to Vegas again, we got to go. We got to do a podcast there. In the hotels. I don't care if we're in the hotels. We don't need access to anything. We could just walk down the strip. And they said that you could just sit down at any table and you'd be sitting down likely to an NFL reporter or an NFL player, or it's just like, think about it. It was flooded with NFL people and superstars. Let's get into the halftime show. Usher performed the halftime show, brought a few special guests along. The memes were flowing. The opinions were flowing on social media. I love it. I hate it. Oh, what did you think?
Dude, that was like a top 5 for me easily. I mean, I could probably put that in top 3. Usher is like an icon to me in terms of dancing and music, bro. Like the old school 90s, early 2000s. You remind me of, and then like he's the old school 90s videos where they're like in the girl's face while she's leaning back on a fence. You're like, why are you doing that? And they're dancing circles around the girl. That's where it really kind of came from. People like Usher, bro. So I learned how to when I was pop locking and stuff back at being younger in the teenage years. I learned how to do my glide from Usher and a mixture with Michael Jackson, but mostly from Usher. Like there, You Remind Me is where I learned how to do my. You see me gliding on the floor when I dance. It's from that. I learned it on watching that music video.
That's funny. See, you were actually a good
Oh,
dancer.
bro,
Like,
I loved it.
people like me, I was trying to do it, and it was just like, it looked not. That's when I learned real quick. I was like, yeah, this, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. You got to know what you're good at.
Yeah. So I would give it, man, I have to give it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think they did it beautiful. I think they picked the perfect songs. I think they gave them the right amount of time. They even threw in some cool little, when they had the band playing, the Usher, yeah, bro. Like Usher, yeah, was the hit song of our transition from junior high into high school. And it was like a number one hit for like the longest, I know has a record. Someone recently beat it, I think. But for like 2 years, bro, it was one of the top like songs. It was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. How about you?
Yeah, it's one of the greatest hits, literally of all time.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. And I think a lot of why I think me and you enjoy it is it's a generational thing.
Yeah, it's
like
our
we
era.
enjoy it, and these are songs that we recognize, that we can be like, oh, it takes the whole magic of music is that these songs take you back to a particular place, a particular time, where you can imagine you're like, man, I was, you're a little kid and you're like, I was getting my heart broken. I was listening to You Got It Bad, not having any idea what. So he comes on and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
She likes it my way.
So like generationally, this is right up our alley. Like, do you remember when the freaking Rolling Stones are like, yeah? And I was like, who the fuck are these old hags? Like, what are they doing here? They're not even, they're not even good. So, but there's a generation of people that are like, this is the most badass thing. Now that's a halftime show.
Yeah. They finally got him on there.
Yeah. So it's like now
I'm
we're
almost
transitioning
dead,
from
but-
that generation. It's like they loved it, and we were probably like, well, that was real boring. So then now it's all generation. Like, who are you trying to reach?
I don't think there's any generation that thought Usher sucked. I will say that I think
There
there's
was.
people. I'll say this in this way, like you just said with the Rolling Stones. I think they thought it was maybe fun, but they're like, this isn't the person I want to see. The Rolling Stones stuff, that wasn't even fun. Like,
Yeah.
we're just like, what is this? Like,
Yeah, just I don't even know how many people are in the Rolling Stones.
yeah.
The coolest thing about the Rolling Stones is their logo. Their that tongue, that so sick. So sick. But yeah, Generation was right up our alley. It's one of these things. We knew every song. It took us back, and we were just every person was just dancing in their living room, pretending to be Usher, and it just takes you back to that little spot.
So nostalgic.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because I really enjoyed it, and then you go on social media and they're like, that was one of the worst, and I was like, man, what are you people seeing? Like there's always these miserable people who are just out there like, man, I really enjoyed that, and then you go online and suddenly there's people who absolutely hated it. Lil Jon came out, Ludacris came out, Alicia Keys came out. I thought it was just great. And then for the other things that you mentioned too, as far as bringing out the band and bringing out the roller skates, that was really cool. That was bold. If they're like, hey, Vic, do you want to come on roller skates doing the halftime show? I'd be like, hell no. Have you lost your damn mind? Do you know how nervous I'm going to be rolling around in roller skates in the Super Bowl? You done lost your damn mind. I'm not doing that. And there was remember there was a time where we saw him kind of trip up, and I was like, oh, he almost ate it. And you're like, yeah, he did. So halftime, I think it was fantastic. I wanted to talk about the commercials. Do you have any thoughts on the commercials?
Well, you sent me on a slave job outside, so I didn't really get to catch those.
Shovel the snow and make the burgers.
Yeah, do that thing you do outside with the snow and the shovel.
Dance, monkey.
So yeah, there was a couple. I remember seeing one. And I was like, "That's a good one." I honestly am not gonna buy that Temu stuff because they showed it too many times. Like it's like, I wish they showed it once or twice. I was happy seeing it, but I got tired of seeing it.
My one thought on the commercials is around Temu,
whatever. I think they finally let us know what the name was. That's
the
for sure.
pronunciation. Yeah.
Temu.
Here's my thoughts. So I think going to work if you host a TV show, a radio show, a podcast, and you're like, oh, let's talk about the commercials. It's like, it's so corny. It's outdated. The commercials are not what they used to be. And this year was no different. The commercials, whatever, they're not good anymore. They're not what they used to be. And I'm not even mad at it. It's just like, it just is. Now they're released early, so there's no excitement. They're like, yeah, that commercial's pretty funny, but that also got released like a week early, so people have already been exposed to it, where it used to be the shock of like, oh, did you see what happened? And it's just like, no, yeah, I saw it last week, and it's like, that was a good commercial. Commercials aren't what they used to be, but I will say that the biggest winner in Super Bowl 24 commercials talk is Temu. And I'll tell you why. Folks, I thought Temu, when it first came out, and I think we've all seen the ads on social media. I think we all saw it was everywhere. You get the ads everywhere. And I first saw it and I was like, there's a scam. There's something from China that's, like the next scam thing, whatever. And they had a lot of money because they were advertising everywhere. And I was like, nope, never shopping from them. Never. And then I see I counted 3, there might have been more, 3 Temu commercials. And they were the biggest winner of the commercial game, because all of a sudden, I think all the other commercials, Coors Light and all these, we know what they are. We know that they're legit. We buy Coors. We drink their beer. We go and we know Verizon. But I think the biggest gain was from Temu, because everybody was like hesitant. They're like, what? And all of a sudden you get a Super Bowl ad and everybody's like, oh, they're legit.
Yeah, they're legit.
Yeah, they're legit. So it legitimized Temu, whatever. And let me tell you something. If you can give me things at a discount, a fat discounted rate, they're super cheap. I'm going to give them a try now. Because now I saw them on the Super Bowl and they're like, clearly they can afford this. And 2, I don't think Super Bowls would post like really a lot of like, you can't just be like, hey, we'll give you money. Like, you can't post a scam, is what I'm trying to say. Oh. So to me, that was the biggest. You'd be
surprised. You don't remember the crypto guy that everyone got shit for, like Tom Brady?
Oh, I do remember that. That was bad.
Big deal.
So I think biggest winner of the commercials was Temu, just because it legitimized everything that they've been doing. And everybody's like, this Chinese brand giving me a bicycle for $12,
I guess if you put it that way, that makes sense. That kind of sways me, only because I'll put it this way. Say if I didn't see it because they played it once when I went outside, they played it like 5 more times, and those are for the people that might have missed it going to the bathroom.
You know what's funny? More than anything, I think getting a Super Bowl commercial is not even so much. It's just a flex.
It's just a flex.
It's like, okay, how much is it? Boom, you just said it, 7.7 million.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even care what the content of your commercial. If I just see your logo or your brand, I'm like, damn, Temu can afford 7.7 million. I'm like, well, let's go. They're legit.
Hey, like you call me. Hey, what's the budget for I Love You Say It Back in ad spend? $5.
7 point something. Hey. Yeah, 7.50, $7.50.
It's like that's our ad spend for the next 100 years.
For real.
Spend it.
So like imagine like I Love You Say It Back is like in its beginning baby infancy stages. But all of a sudden, imagine if I like put an ad on there, like people wouldn't even care about the content as much. They'd be like, damn, who the hell is this podcast who can afford a Super Bowl ad? Yeah. Like that's how it legitimizes. And that's my only thoughts. Because commercials, again, a lot of people do these content things. They're like, I feel like it's a lot of lames, bro. Like people can't think of content. They're like, hey, what was your favorite Super Bowl commercial? I love the one with the chicken. And he went, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I will say this was one of the worst like commercial memories of a Super Bowl. I could say
well, the fact that you can't remember, fact that you can't remember a single commercial just tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, because there's, who always killed it, and maybe I missed it or didn't do it this year. Doritos always had, and Coca-Cola have always had really great commercials for Super Bowl. It's always been a thing.
Yeah, I don't believe this year. I don't think
they've seen it.
Let's put a bow on this because we still got to do our Valentine's Day special.
Yeah.
Couple things I wanted to mention. Last things. So right after, if everybody in America saw the Super Bowl halftime show, Ludacris, kind of cool. A local shout out here. It was announced that he was coming to not Bakersfield, Porterville. We have a casino here. It's called Eagle Mountain Casino. And it was announced that he's going to be coming here April 5th I don't know what that.
My buddy he runs the DJing out there at the New Eagle Mountain. And
Really?
he tried to get them to hire me to do their social media and photo video. So I'll
Well,
probably see if we can get over there. I could go film, and
That'd
then
be
maybe
crazy.
we could do some
some content outside
Yeah.
of it, like,
Hey,
and be like, who did it
who's
better?
ludicrous? Ludicrous.
Who did it better? And just me. Watch out, my outfit's ridiculous in the
Oh,
club,
yeah.
looking so conspicuous and right. These women
Yeah.
all on the brown, live you on that. Hey,
Melt the
I got to
cow.
keep it together. I'm gonna lose it.
Don't forget about it.
But I
I'ma
do think
spit
I
the
did.
Truth. I won't stop till get him at a birthday suit
So give me the rhythm and the beat off of the clothes. They bend over to the front.
and touch your toes.
I can't believe I did Ludacris better than Ludacris, but that's the topic for another time.
You're
So
like,
yeah,
I can't believe I was a ghostwriter back then. Anyways, guys, so next on the podcast.
Yeah. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on, and everybody wins with, did you know that the Super Bowl went into overtime? Obviously, we all know that. But did you know that America wins free wings from Buffalo Wild Wings? You hear about this? So with the Super Bowl going into overtime, Buffalo Wild Wings had a deal where if it goes into overtime, everybody in America gets 6 free wings, no purchase necessary. Is going to be going down February 25th from 2 to 5.
How do they track that though?
What do you mean?
What if I go to just like all 3 different locations?
You can do that.
What
It
if I
just
want to
has to
just
be-
keep going in and out of the same one?
Well, then, I mean, I'm sure they'll recognize you going into. We don't even have 3 locations here. We
I
have 2,
know.
dummy.
You're just jumping to different manager shifts.
You're wearing shades. You're wearing a hat like tilted to the side. You're like, that wasn't me.
What are you talking about?
Hey, how you doing? How you
Hey,
doing?
or you're spending more money to get free wings, like you're buying a whole like different outfit and
Yeah, I'm going
painting
in
your
there
face.
talking Spanish. Deme unas alitas con de la Asian zinc, por favor. Hey, weren't you here a minute ago? No sé, no te entiendo, compa. Yo nomás quiero mis alitas gratis, compa. Yo no sé. But yeah, there you go. So, congratulations, America. We are all winners with this great Super Bowl. And record-breaking, Taylor Swift, so many storylines. It was awesome. So, snowboarding trip was incredible. One of the top ones. And glad you came out. So, that is our Super Bowl recap. Unless there's anything else that you want to...
Not with the Super Bowl, but I do want to throw this in there because I brought this up earlier, or it just sounds weird because you heard me just say drugs, in the beginning of the podcast. So I was looking this up because it was a conversation before. The DARE program, this is a fun fact. The DARE program actually found an uptick in drug use among suburban students after the participation in the DARE program. In 2009, DARE rebranded with the new curriculum for students, and they dubbed it "Keeping It Real." But the program doesn't focus on how students can minimize their risk of harm if they do the use of drugs. Also, a lot of slack they got was that their program focused on upper middle class schools for the presentation about drug use, and they're finding out that there's an uptick of drug use in suburban areas of kids.
They had the money.
The funding for DARE was greatly reduced in the 2000s because of its poor performance at reducing drug use, particularly following a General Accounting Office report in 2003, which found no significant difference in illicit drug use caused by DARE after decades of antagonism towards DARE.
So, in other words, if you went to DARE, you're more likely to do drugs than kids who did not.
Yeah, because it's think about this. If you never knew about certain things, you're gonna know about them then, and I think there's certain things you probably don't let kids know about in like a curiosity stage. Like I told you my story after being
I remember so much of the DARE program. I remember my office. I think his name was Officer Darby, big guy.
Yeah,
And I rember him telling us about
I know him.
black tar heroin.
Bill Darby.
It might have been actually.
Yeah, his daughter Emily. She would sing in my
shower.
reaching our goals assemblies to motivate and inspire kids.
Unreal.
He's retired, but he does. He's a really amazing family.
Yeah.
Him, his wife, daughters, and it's funny because I brought his daughter into the program that I was doing to inspire other kids. She was an elementary kid at the time. She's in college now, bro.
Kind of hot.
Yeah, no,
Kinda hot.
no, bro, please don't. Anyways, no, it's really cool because we took a picture when I first had her on the first assembly, and then one of her last ones before she graduated high school. And literally, she goes from being this short kid next to me, like to almost my height.
I've seen this movie before.
Oh, great!
I'm in college now.
I hope they never.
I'm
ever
only in
hear this
town
episode.
for summer.
Yeah, actually, I think she's a big country fan.
Wow,
she might know who you are.
You've really grown up there. Okay, get into your story. Are they aware? Tell them that cigarette story because that was great.
Oh, the cigarette story. Okay, so I was in the DARE program.
Smoking ciggies.
I remember, keep in mind I have asthma, so I already knew this would never be a thing. So I'm like, this could be the first time since DARE kind of is promoting this. Just kidding.
Since you want me to do ciggies all this much.
I think this was the issue. I didn't know about cigarettes like that until DARE. One, I seen family members, people smoking cigarettes. You hear they're bad, but then if you're a kid and you start telling people not to do things as a kid, and you start telling them about all the bad stuff, and a kid says something, I was like, it's kind of cool actually, There's rat poison in cigarettes. Nice. Like, whatever it is. And I remember walking home. I had this stubborn thing in my head. I was like, nothing. Before I almost died for respiratory failure, I used to think I can never die or nothing could ever kill me. That was my reality check. Like, oh, shoot, you could die. So you feel invincible as a kid. That's why you do a whole bunch of stupid crap, like skateboards or whatever. So I remember walking home one day after the DARE program, like, cigarettes are the most addicting thing in the world. If you smoke one cigarette, you're going to be addicted for the rest of your life. And they kind of pushed it that way. And I just remember being kind of really curious of being like, is this thing really going to get me?
This shit must be good.
I'm a fourth grader, by the way, still. Whatever grade it was, 4th through 6th. I just remember I'm walking home, and I see a cigarette on the side of the curb, and you still see smoke coming from it. So I was like, all right, here's our chance, boys. Let's see if this thing, what happens to me after this. So I remember taking a very tiny, slight little puff, a super tiny. And I remember going home, and I never said anything because I knew I'd probably get in trouble if I said something. But I remember going to school and going up to my friends and being like, hey guys, guess what? Like, what? Smoked a cigarette yesterday.
Guess what I did, pussies?
Yeah, not addicted. Never want to do it again, guys. So anyways, they lied. Or whatever it is. They're like, bet you guys can't do it. And do you remember the bad kids in junior high? That would smoke cigarettes, your friends or people you knew. Do you remember that?
Mm-mm.
There was, bro. I remember.
I remember in high school. I remember their names too.
Jeez, don't put it out there.
I know.
So yeah, that's my DARE program story, and I think that kind of flows into why it probably wasn't a successful program. They're just telling a whole bunch of kids not to do something.
Hey, don't touch the stove.
Yeah. Don't push the red button.
Yeah, exactly. That's a kid's curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so DARE program, bad for you. And that's how we ended up doing a podcast. Could you imagine where I'd be if I didn't do the DARE program? I'd be successful on Wall Street. Thanks, DARE program.
Jeez.
Kept me off of black tar heroin, though. Or did it? All right, that's going to wrap it up. That is our Super Bowl recap. It was a great one. I hope you enjoyed it again. Definitely put on some pounds from that, and definitely worth it. So until next time, enjoy this one. We got another one coming for you. Valentine's Day special. Stay tuned for that. I love you. Say it back. Woo.